That's one of Chris's favorite bands right there with Junkyard with Simple Man.
My favorite song by Junkyard as well.
Yeah, it's a great song. I like that band, and they have resurrected themselves, and they are out playing some shows.
They are, and I had to miss because that was right when my back was all fucked up.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
So I had to miss the show. Hopefully they come back one more time. I can hope. That's a show I would go to.
Sure, absolutely. Well, we have talked about this for the last couple of months, and it was brought up earlier by a caller tonight about the mediums out there, the platforms for people who don't agree with whatever the mainstream is these days, and definitely the more or less conservative viewpoint is under attack these days.
Okay.
Ever since Trump has taken office, and ever since the Republicans have had the power in both the House and the Senate, social media has played a huge part in spreading the word.
Right.
And the companies, the large corporations that own or run these social media platforms, be it Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, you name it, they have been accused, and it's been proven that a lot of these are trying to squelch conservative viewpoints and trying to lessen their effect.
Right.
And even though you and I, are not necessarily a conservative talk show, I think, well, we are as a common sense talk show.
Right, okay.
Common sense is not a viewpoint that is shared in today's environment.
No, not normally.
And because we do talk in very raw terms on the show and talk about subject matter that is offensive to the sensitive types out there, our type of speech will be also squelched sooner or later.
Oh, yeah, it's coming.
And one guy who kind of vocalized that so eloquently is somebody I've reached out to. I've tried to see if I can get this guy on the show because he'll be releasing a new book here in about a month or so, and maybe we'll get lucky. But is YouTuber Mark Dice.
Yeah.
He put out a video this week that I thought that he did a really good job in kind of summing up where we are in social media and trying to squelch the conservative viewpoint. Because it is having such a large movement and such a huge effect that it's raining on the progressive agenda.
Yes, it is.
And they don't like it. So they're doing everything they can do to try to tamp that down.
Right.
So therefore, as we talked about, we're seeing, or possibly we'll see, the rise of other platforms out there that will be competing.
Sure.
Kind of like what Roger Ailes did with establishing Fox News Channel to combat the other mainstream media, CNN, NBC, CBS, ABC.
Right, sure.
At that time. So anyway, I'm going to play this audio, and we'll comment as we go along, but I think that he's dead on in his assessment here.
Okay.
So here's Mark Dice, Mark Dice.
Well, what do we have here? Twitter is so liberal that its conservative employees don't feel safe to express their opinions, admits the CEO Jack Dorsey. Well, but CNN says that it's a false claim that big tech is silencing conservatives. While the liberal mainstream media will never report on his admission, he did say this to Recode Media during an interview on their podcast, and Recode's a pretty popular organization. They're the ones who hosted that historic interview with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. They always have the red chairs, so it wasn't a small podcast. But I'm sure little Brian Stelter and Oliver Darcy know what's happening inside of Twitter better than the CEO. And
all right, so the CEO of Twitter said, yeah, even the employees are afraid to say anything.
Now, what is Jack Dorsey? Is he a hardcore lib?
I'm sure that he probably is. He runs Twitter. He's the head of Twitter.
Yeah.
So it seems like all these tech companies and these social media companies, they're all very left-leaning companies.
I guess I don't know. I don't know where this was or whatever, but I guess the question comes up, why would he, as the CEO of Twitter, admit that?
Because I think he's trying to deny it, saying they have no reason to be afraid.
But then he admitted that his own team, his own people are afraid?
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to dispel that as if that's just a myth. He said there would be no reason for them to be afraid. We're not anti-conservative.
But that would be him denying it. You're saying that he said he acknowledged it.
No, he said that his employees have voiced their thoughts that they feel or believe or won't say anything because they're afraid. And I think what he's trying to say is, I don't know why they're afraid. They're saying this, but I don't know why they would say that.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out why he would, as the owner of the company, would acknowledge it. But I guess he's not. He's saying that it's bullshit.
Yeah, I think that's what he's trying to say.
Okay. But Dice is saying that he didn't say it was bullshit?
Well, he's saying that with all the proof out there that, there were a lot of senators or Congress people out there saying that if you were to search them on Twitter, that they were being, what did they call it, stealthed or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So even though that they had a presence on Twitter, they weren't coming up in the searches.
Shadow ban.
Yeah, that's it. Shadow ban. That's what I was looking for. And they denied that they were doing that.
Yeah. Somebody sent me a message, said that we were shadow banned.
I wouldn't
on YouTube.
That,
I think it was Sal.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Sal said that he used to be able to just type in classic metal and all of our shit would come up. But now when he types in classic metal, our stuff doesn't come up. Which I don't know. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I don't either, but I haven't tried it, so I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
Sal might just not know how to work his computer.
Well, let me do it right now. Let me pull up YouTube.
Yeah, see if when you type up classic metal, if any of our stuff comes up.
YouTube. All right, youtube.com. Going up into the search bar here. Classic metal. Yeah, it's right up there. Classic Metal Show. It's the second one in there. One is Classic Metal, and the next one is Classic Metal Show.
Maybe Sal spelled it wrong.
You have no idea, but it pops right up. All right, let's get back to what he was saying here.
Right.
You may recall that it was just a few weeks ago that dozens of conservative Facebook employees finally united and began speaking out on their internal messaging system about how intolerant the liberal culture is within Facebook. And let's not forget that just last week, we got an entire hour-long leaked video from a Google staff meeting with all their top executives, some of them literally in tears, just days after the 2016 election, as they spent the entire meeting talking about what they were going to do. And it was just yesterday that we learned that Google employees discussed tweaking the search results in order to counter President Trump's travel ban. Google employees brainstormed ways to alter search functions to counter the Trump administration's controversial 2017 travel ban, the Wall Street Journal reported on Thursday, citing internal emails. The Google employees proposed ways to leverage search functions and take steps to counter what they consider to be Islamophobic, algorithmically biased results for search terms like Islam, Muslim, Iran, blah, 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 Mexico, Hispanic, etc., etc. And
so they're figuring out algorithms to, keep you from being able to find these things.
Mm-hmm. Not surprising. I mean, is anybody shocked by this?
Not at all. But again, these are privately owned companies, but regardless, it's just like, well, we're trying to keep what we consider the riffraff out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what they're going to end up doing is they're going to actually splinter their own fucking money, because half the people are going to go to whatever counterculture fucking establishes itself.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, there will be, long before there'll be a social media platform, there will be another search engine.
Oh, I agree.
Because the basics of search can be done without the algorithms. I mean, the very basics, they could, if a company rose up, and I don't want to get all super techie about this, but, the algorithms mean that what Google does is it takes those words and then it scans, it uses robots to scan every website out there, and then it rates based on the words that it finds on the website. Well, Google does all these different changes now, and they've devalued a lot of the pieces that used to make a lot of sense. The titling of your page and all that stuff that you used to stuff keywords into, all that shit. All anybody that's doing a search engine would have to do is put that back in. And it would be if they just did a basic search engine that searched what worked 10 years ago on websites, it would be completely different results than what you get today.
Right.
It would be simple enough, if you know how to build a basic search engine to, go out, hit a database that fucking finds this word and that word and list any website that has that, without any algorithms, then now we're talking, and that could be established a lot easier. It will not shock me if it might already even be out there for all I know, but because most people think there's like 2 search engines, but there's like 50 of them out there.
Right.
It won't shock me if some dominant, right-leaning thing gets established pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree.
And people will start using it.
Yep.
People that are frustrated by not being able to find what they're looking for will start using it. They'll use it more than anything else. Google wasn't always, and this is the whole thing, Google wasn't always the dominant search engine. When they first came out, they were well down. I mean, I'm sure you remember the days of Netscape Navigator and, what was the one, the Spider one? Spider Bot or something?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Alta Vista.
And obviously Explorer has been out there a long time.
Exactly. Yahoo. Yahoo was a big search engine. There was a bunch of them back in the day, and they all just got bought up by Google, but somebody will come up eventually and not sell themselves to Google. It'll happen.
Yep. All right, here we go.
The Data and Society Research Institute just released a 60-page report on conservative YouTubers who they have dubbed the Alternative Influence Network, that they say are adopting techniques of brand influencers to build audiences and, quote, sell them political ideologies. And of course, this alternative influencer network is breeding right-wing radicalism. Their report...
So the conservatives are the radicals.
Yeah, they're the radicals.
The influencers.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Includes this chart. And I'm serious, this is really the chart in their report showing all the different connections between a bunch of different YouTubers who have all collaborated with each other or done interviews with each other.
Yeah, so basically what this chart shows, I know this is audio, but what this chart shows is how all of these conservative YouTubers, like a Mark Dice, and they even consider Joe Rogan one, that how they all kind of cross-pollinate with each other.
Because they interview each other.
Yeah, because they interview each other, so they pump up those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, these YouTubers who they're kind of banding together and, and becoming a force, and one cross-references to another.
Do you really believe that? I don't believe that, though. Do you really believe they're becoming a force?
I don't know how big of a force, but I'm just saying it's enough to where YouTube is trying to tamp that down.
Well, I get that part, but I mean, it still comes down to what you like listening to. I mean, if I've stopped listening to Rogan for the most part because he's stopped being interesting. So would you consider him a force? because because I'm not the only one that stopped listening to him.
No, I'm talking about a collective here, not individual.
Well, but I mean, I don't even think of Rogan as a political show, really. Do you?
No, that's why I said I was surprised that Rogan was actually included in this web per se.
Yeah, I mean, and what about the other side? What would shit like the Young Turks be? Wouldn't that be some kind of force for the other team?
Yeah, but that's the correct team to be on, though.
So that doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay, because they're pretty big, aren't they? Young
yeah,
Turks?
well, they support the narrative that YouTube wants to support, so that doesn't count.
So they get promoted to the top.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Well, these are the people that preach our ideology, so they're fine.
Okay. Whatever. Go to Gab, everybody.
Yeah.
On this fucking YouTube.
Right.
The graph is a partial representation of collaborative connections within the Alternative Influence Network.
The Alternative Influence Network. Alternative to the Progressive Network.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want those people.
AIN, as they call it, a network of controversial academics, media pundits, and internet personalities who use YouTube to promote a range of political positions, from mainstream versions of libertarianism and conservatism to overt white nationalism. While collaborations can sometimes consist of debates and disagreements, they more frequently indicate social ties, endorsements, and advertisements for other influencers. Surprise!
Yeah, so you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're cross-pollinating with each other.
Yeah.
Like if we were to have a Mark Dice on here, we would be in that web.
Oh, we would be part of that?
Yeah.
Well, let's get it done. Stop fucking around.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. But if he was in this web and we were in that web and we had him on this show, it would be cross reference to Mark Dice, the Classic Metal Show, Joe Rogan. It's all this. It's like this 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon type thing.
Well, stop messing around, Neely. I want to be part of the outcasts.
Right, of course.
I want to be considered as a threat. Let's get on that.
Right, we're the alternative influencers.
Yeah, that's what I want to be. I want to alternatively influence somebody.
I think we already are.
Are we?
Yeah, I think so.
Do we influence people?
I think so.
I would hope not.
All right, well, let's continue on.
All right.
Surprisingly, I'm not even in this mess, even though I have more subscribers and more daily viewers than pretty much all of these people. Probably because liberals don't have a sense of humor, so they don't really get me. Maybe I should start doing interviews with other YouTubers. And with my book coming out a week after the midterms, that might be a good time to start. Seriously, I'm really disappointed that this research institute doesn't think that I'm important enough to be a YouTube influencer. And the whole point of their research project is that these YouTubers are responsible for radicalizing people. First you watch Joe Rogan, then you hop over to Jordan Peterson, and then you go right over into white nationalist land. Of course, they weren't going to be satisfied.
White nationalist land.
How many subscribers does he have? He's got to have a bunch, right?
Oh, he does. He does.
Does he have multi-millions, like 10 million or something?
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, each one of his videos probably get like 250,000 views.
Boy, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Aside with just removing Alex Jones from YouTube, they're coming for all conservatives. This is from Variety. How YouTube's far right is using classic influencer tactics to promote its views. Political extremists are using YouTube.
Talking to millennials today.
What was that?
No, I went to Dice's page to see a subscriber and it started playing.
Right.
There's 1,332,024 subscribers.
There you go.
That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
Their toxic ideas. Conservatism is toxic now. The Alternative Influence Network report also recommends that YouTube ban channels from even interviewing certain people, saying, quote, the platform should not only assess what channels say in their content, but also who they host and what their guests say.
So here we go. We need to censor what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
if it doesn't go with our ideology and our viewpoint, then we need to censor it.
Right.
In a media environment.
I was going to say that's probably not going to happen. They could try that, and they're just going to. It amazes me that they don't realize that whoever is doing this, that they're just fucking cutting their own nose off to spite their face. It's they're wrecking themselves. They're not hurting anybody else. They're just wrecking somebody else. They're wrecking themselves in the end.
Well, in the end, they might, but I think what they really believe they're doing is that they're, we need to stop this wave. We can't allow them to use our platform to promote an ideology that we don't support.
Yeah, but what it's going to do is form a counterculture very much the same as it did in 2016 in the election.
Yep.
Where they had no fucking idea what was going on. You remember all the jokes and shit? Oh, Trump, he's not going to get 2% of the vote.
Yeah.
And the fucking guy won. It's going to be the same thing. The irony of it, and maybe I'm crazy for thinking this, but I would think you want to know who fucking thinks what. I would, it's not like people that are far leaning right. Like, I think you're more right leaning than I am. I think. I'm kind of in the middle, sort of. I mean, I lean to the right, I guess, but I'm also for abortion, and I'm all about that. Go ahead, kill a kid. I don't give a fuck. So I mean, I'm for some left leaning stuff as well. But I would think that, don't you want to know who you're dealing with? Instead of what's going to happen, these people are not going to start. People that are right leaning are not going to start paying attention to the other view, because that's the only view that's out there. You're not going to all of a sudden start fucking subscribing to the Young Turks, right? If they threw Mark Dice off, you would not all of a sudden start watching whatever, Rachel Maddow.
No, of course not.
Or the Young Turks or whatever.
Yeah, but what they're trying to do here is they're trying to stave off any kind of opposition to what their agenda is.
Yeah, but they're not really going to stave it off. It's just going to go underground.
You're right. I agree with that. But I think, again, this is just me thinking, that it's just like, well, what are they going to do if we throw them off our platform? They don't have the wherewithal and the money to have a giant conglomerate that we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how'd that conglomerate work before? Everybody went underground, and then everybody was shocked when it happened, and that's going to happen again. People don't give a fuck. Look, working people don't give a fuck about YouTube and Twitter. I mean, do you really think that YouTube and Twitter was the fucking impetus behind Donald Trump getting elected? Or do you think it was people were just fucking sick of people that were on YouTube and Twitter?
I think that's probably what it was.
People were sick of it. They didn't nobody was out there making, bang the drum statements. Everybody just fucking minded their business. When it came to election time, they went and voted. And guess what? Your fucking whore lost. That's how it went down. And therein lies what's going to happen. People aren't going to fucking change their view based on YouTube or any of that kind of shit. They're just going to be quiet about it and still vote their fucking conscience. That's just how it's going to work.
Well, I think that was proven with the polling during the 2016 election about keeping their mouth shut and just voting.
Right.
Because the polls were so far off.
Yeah.
Because they would just said, not going to comment, or, I'm going to vote for Hillary. Sure. Yeah, sure.
Exactly. I don't give a fuck what you guys think. I don't care about your polling numbers.
Yeah.
No. Crazy.
Environment consisting of networked influencers, YouTube must respond with policies that account for influence and amplification.
There you go. There it is right there.
Mm-hmm.
We need to readjust our policies that will somehow, we can throw you off our channel because you violated our policy.
Yeah, well, that's why I started our Gab channel.
Well, did you see what happened to James Woods, the actor?
What did he get thrown off of Twitter?
He got thrown off of Twitter.
Did he?
Yeah, because he retweeted a meme.
Did they throw the person that originally posted it off of Twitter?
No, they just threw him off.
Because he has more followers?
Yeah, because he's got more followers.
Right. I don't think James Wood gives a shit.
No, he doesn't give a shit at all. But the point is that he retweeted a meme. It wasn't even his meme.
Yeah.
He just retweeted it, but because he's got a lot of followers, and because he is a name, and because he is a quote-unquote influencer,
right,
they threw him off because, quote-unquote, he violated their terms of service.
Right. How do you think Tim Allen keeps getting his TV show renewed?
I don't know the answer.
That's crazy, isn't it? Tim Allen, because he's hard. He's a hard right.
He is. He's a hard right guy.
And I saw that his show debuted on Thursday or Friday, whatever night, and it got huge ratings.
Well, but see, they're making money. So it's like, okay, well, you can have your right-wing ideology, but we're cashing your checks.
But I mean, he's reaching more people than he would on fucking Twitter.
Well, again, it's that fine line between, well, we're making bank on you, so you go right ahead with your silly right-wing ideology as long as those sponsors are rolling in.
Yeah, it just seems to me that left-leaning shit. Left-lean might work in the free world, and by free I mean that doesn't cost anything. But anything that generates money, the right-wing stuff is what always works.
Of course it does. Well, look at talk radio. Look at Rush Limbaugh. He's been on the air for 30 years. Still gets big ratings. Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, they get top ratings. But then you get the lefty people. Even Sirius Satellite Radio had a whole station dedicated to left-wing ideology. That Air America.
Yeah,
and it failed miserably.
Yeah. Because left-leaning people don't support their own cause.
They don't.
They really don't. It is kind of funny.
Well, they're the people who want to comment on Facebook, but when it comes down to actually getting up and doing anything, I just want to beat the drum.
Yeah, someone else will do it.
Yeah, I don't want to really get involved, but I want to vent my outrage and beat the drum for this. But when it comes to actually doing something,
right,
not interested.
Yeah, exactly. So, it is interesting to say the least.
Yep.
We're sorry, only mainstream media channels can interview controversial people, not regular YouTubers. It's getting pretty crazy, guys, and it's only going to get worse as the midterms approach, and then as the 2020 election approaches, they're going to be doing everything that they can to try to shut us down. At this rate, I wonder if they're going to ban my new book, which is hopefully coming out a week after the midterms. I'll give you guys an update as the release date gets a little bit closer. So thanks to everyone who supports this channel, all you guys who sponsor me through Patreon and tip me through PayPal.
All right, so there you go.
Right. Well, that's something.
So there's a guy who used to be able to make some money off of his YouTube, but they demonetize every single thing he does now.
I get that.
So, it's just like, well, we can't allow you to make money off of this because maybe eventually if we starve you out, you'll go somewhere else. Or you'll stop doing this or whatever it is that they don't like.
Yeah. Well, we'll see now, won't we?
Yeah. But I think he vocalized it pretty succinctly.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's just that I'm in a shallow place these days, but I could give a fuck about the fucking left bullshit. I just don't pay attention to it anymore. I just couldn't care less. The whole shit this week with the judge thing.
Yeah.
I didn't watch a minute of it. Not a minute, not a replay, nothing. I just don't care. I don't give a fuck. If this guy grabbed some tits fucking 35 years ago, who gives a fuck? Why is that? Why would anybody, what human being in today's world would honestly pretend like they give a fuck about some guy they never heard of before, some woman they never heard of before this week, and fucking the fact that he grabbed some titty at a fucking college or a high school party? Who cares? Right?
Well, you would think who cares, but the problem is that this whole Me Too movement has, built up some steam, and everybody wants to be outraged these days.
Yeah. But why, and I think I preach this over and over every week, why aren't people just saying, I don't care? Because in reality, nobody cares. We got 44 people in the chat room. And I'm going to challenge the chat room right now and be honest. Do you give a flying fuck about the Me Too movement on any level? And if you do, you do. You're not going to get castigated for it. But do you give a fuck at all about the Me Too movement? Could you care less? I can't imagine that people give a shit.
They don't. But the thing is if you believe the media, and the media has huge influence. I don't care, who you are.
Right.
But they beat that drum day after day after day after day. And how does that ideology go that if you keep preaching the same lie over and over again, eventually becomes the belief or whatever? How's that go?
Oh, it's you say it enough, it becomes the truth.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what they do.
I get it, but my God, I guess it just shows that the politicians or the Soros people or whoever the fuck it is, what it really does, and I can't believe that people in good conscience can't see this about themselves. They can't look at themselves enough to know that the people that are spreading that message and spreading that word out there, how little they think of the intelligence of the people themselves. Because the reason they do that is because they think that you're too stupid to actually fucking have an opinion. That's
exactly what it is. It's like, well, we'll tell you what to think.
Yeah, but I mean, I can't fathom in good conscience. What's the worst crime that could happen to somebody? Raping them and then killing them and killing their kids in front of them or something?
Something like that, sure.
Would you call? I mean, that would be horrific. If I've never heard of the person, I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to give anything more than passing empathy. And maybe that's just me, but, I can't fathom that I could ever fucking go further than thinking, wow, sucks for her. What's next? Right? I mean, do people in good conscience really give a fuck?
Right.
That's what my question is do people really give a fuck, or do they just fucking pretend? Do they live in such a world that they have to pretend that they care? And that's what is fucking insanity to me.
Right.
So I don't know.
Well,
whatever.
Here's I know you don't watch this bag of shit, and I don't either.
Mm-hmm.
But on MSNBC, you got the Morning Joe.
Oh yeah,
and you got that morning that Joe, what's his face?
Yeah, I don't even know his name. Joe. God, now all I can think of is Kavanaugh, but that's not it.
No, but anyway, his soon-to-be wife, that Mika Brzezinski.
Yeah,
she let it slip out last year that basically our job is to control exactly what people think.
Right, Joe Scarborough.
Listen to this.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I hear. What Yamiche just said is what I hear from all the Trump supporters that I talk to who were Trump voters and are still Trump supporters. They go, yeah, you guys are going crazy. He's doing, what are you so surprised about? He's doing exactly what he said he's going to do.
Well, and I think that the dangerous, edges here are that he's trying to undermine the media, trying to make up his own facts. And it could be that while unemployment and the economy worsens, he could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think. And that is our job.
Yeah, if you look at the...
See, that's our job.
It's their job.
That's our job to tell you what to think.
Mm-hmm.
Not the president.
Right.
Don't listen for yourself. Don't make up your own mind. It's our job to tell you what to think.
Right. So stupid.
Oh, I agree.